Okay. I would like to welcome everyone tonight to the Nevada Community School District's Board of Education meeting for October 21st, 2024. I would seek a call to order, and I would like an approval of the agenda as it's placed before us tonight.
Well, I move to approve the agenda, striking item 5, fiscal year 25 line item budget, to be tabled for a future meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have we got any public comment?
We did not.
Well, let us move into Athletic Director Dustin Smith's portion of it, talk about our activity department's update. If you would, join us.
Hello, thanks for having me, President Chitty. Couple updates that I shared with Dr. Gray last week from some upcoming things. There's always a lot of things going on with activities, but these both seemed particularly noteworthy. I believe a brainchild of possibly President Chitty and our former student board members, a Fine Arts Hall of Fame had been kind of lingering out there with some of our fine arts folks getting on board and having those discussions. Say over the last 4 months, I've got the group together, the band, choir, speech, and drama leaders, and just discussed if there was a major appetite for the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. And through some discussions, band and choir really felt like they do have some avenues for these types of awards with all states, but they did feel as a group that this would be a good thing. And as your notes provided state, we're going to move forward with the creation of a Fine Arts Hall of Fame. I'd say it's very preliminary right now. I'd say this minute I've gathered 2 or 3 different Fine Arts Hall of Fames from other schools, and I'll take some time and hack away all the good pieces and bring it as a proposal to all the fine arts members. As we discussed the Fine Arts Hall of Fame, we thought that it would be fitting to invite our dance team and possibly the art, the visual arts, to be part of that Hall of Fame as well. And the dance team did see fit and thought that that'd be a good place for them to get some recognition for all the hard work that goes into dance as well. I have not followed up on the art conversation, haven't found the correct period of day for Mrs. Tiedman and I to connect. But I have a feeling that the arts, visual arts would also feel that this would be a good place for them to get their kids some recognition. The group overall, I think, is excited about it. There will be a pretty good amount of work going into who gets in and how they get in, and what that looks like, because that can be contentious for some folks. But we're going to try to do our best to be equitable amongst the 6 different groups, and equitable about how we celebrate that and where we celebrate that, and try to spread that around to different events that we have so that all the events feel like they've been included on that as well. So the timing, as stated there as well, we hope to induct our first group in the spring of 2026. So we'll take the rest of this school year to make sure that our planning and preparation is in correctly. We'll spend some social media time over the summer and into the fall asking people to nominate worthy individuals for this. And then in January or so, we'll have our committee put together and do some voting on the Fine Arts Hall of Fame if everything falls together as it should. I don't see any reason why that timeline shouldn't be a timeline that we can hit. So that's probably my first update. Any questions related to the Fine Arts Hall of Fame and information provided?
If somebody were to see this broadcast and ask who the point of contact is at the school, it would be you.
It's a good question, and it can be me as a starting spot. Yes, Sarah Bodie is our speech director, and she's volunteered to take on what I'm referring to as an administrative assistant role with the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. One of the biggest tasks of running a Hall of Fame is accumulating the information and putting it all in one spot, making it easy to read for those who are making the decision. It's a large task, especially at the front end when you've got a lot of people going in. That was one of my major roadblocks that I threw out to the group is who's gonna do this and who wants to do this, and someone that really wants to put the time in, and Sarah stepped up to the plate and said that her organizational skills would be a good fit for that, and she'd love to do that, so. Absolutely, questions can come to me as a starting spot.
Yes.
When it comes to nominations and et cetera, that information will be out as we reach into the summer and fall. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna ask Sarah to kind of filter and disseminate some of that information as it comes in.
I would think that we could note this is a thing that's coming to us somewhere in our school communications, such that we can tell people that, hey, we are onboarding this. It will not happen in this school year. It would be starting on a solicitation basis. I don't know where you would put that, but
Yeah, we would get that out in our social media.
Yeah.
So.
I think, I agree, and I think some time to make sure that we've got all the information correct would, sometime this school year, I think we can do some announcing that
Yeah.
into next year. I think that we do have some pieces we wanna make sure that are in line before we really hammer out the details to the folks, so.
yeah, considering it was all being looked at to have inductees, I think that the time is necessary. I wouldn't hurry into this one.
Yep.
I'd get it right because it's gotta last.
Yep, there's definitely going to be some things, and with my role as operating the Athletic Hall of Fame, there's some bylaws and things that change over time to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone. So there's gonna be a starting spot, and then I'm certain the committee and the voters might have some things like we might fix throughout the process too.
Yeah.
Fine arts update there. One other thing that has been a major push, especially by the Sports Bowl, is the potential for a bowling team at Nevada. I have been in discussions with Scott, I'd say over the last 18, 20, 24 months about the potential for a bowling team. We actually put out a survey last year looking for interest in a bowling team. And I found that the interest probably lacked the requirement for like meeting what I would consider a competitive bowling team last year. I put out another survey, which is the results are due on Wednesday. As far as emailing out to students, they usually either do it right then or not at all. So I'm guessing I have most of my results. I would still say that my results from just Nevada students probably lack the merit for having a right away competitive bowling team. But I do think that they're doing a lot of great things at the Sports Bowl at the middle school level. And I do believe that participation is coming. I also think that there is some outlet for a possible sharing, think girls wrestling a little bit, Colo Nesco, Collins Maxwell, where we can then fill out a full varsity and then hopefully a JV roster. My litmus test for the viability of programs is usually, can we start with a varsity and JV roster? Because if you don't have that JV piece, you don't have anything to grow in and fill once they graduate out. I'd say right now with the data that I'd have, I'd say we'd just be short of it on our own as Nevada. So I would at least look at Colo Nesco as a viable partner. And they have indicated that they'd have some interest for bowling at Colo Nesco. Collins Maxwell was maybe a little less interested, but he thought he might have a couple interested.
This mixed league, or are we talking?
There would be a boys and girls team, and depending on numbers, I would say, especially in its infancy, that one coach could oversee both the boys and girls team until you maybe see some growth maybe on one side or the other. If one were to get too large, you could look at maybe diversifying and having a coach for each. Not maybe undifferent than maybe a cross country was for years with one coach and grew in numbers, so we separated. So it wouldn't be co-ed, but there is a girls and a boys division on their own, but during the same season. And you can, most schools schedule that so that they take off and participate at the same time. So your boys and girls meets would be happening kind of side by side next to each other.
Do either high school athletic association have this as a sport?
These are both sanctioned by the Boys and the Girls Athletic Association. And the fun fact would be is if we did add bowling, we would offer every sanctioned sport through Nevada. We do share swimming with Ames, and we've had one participant over my 8 years. But adding bowling would give the opportunity for participation in every sanctioned sport to the boys and the girls union and association. My data would indicate also that helps me believe that it's probably a good thing moving forward, that we're not taking from other sports. I don't see a lot of wrestlers or basketball players quitting wrestling or basketball to go out to the bowling alley and bowl. A lot of the people who have replied to the survey are untraditionally not in athletics. So I think it's going to create an avenue and maybe compare it to esports a little bit, where you get a different type of student and maybe one that you can really get them involved in a place where they hadn't been involved before. So I've got to collect some more data. I do feel like we're on track to be able to have a viable bowling team that would be Nevada-led for the 25-26 school year. Probably would avoid for a couple of years, similar to boys tennis, maybe avoid a lot of the sunk upfront costs. I would maybe we don't buy the uniforms until we really see the growth come on and we're in like a t-shirt instead of buying the expensive uniforms. Scott at the Sports Bowl has also indicated that he's willing to participate in any level to support the team, and that a lot of the costs associated with it would be the cost that he would take with the facility. That is one other thing with bowling that is unique to sports, is you don't own the facility. So you're kind of at the liberty of how well you work with the other people. And fortunately, we've had some really good partnerships. Sherry and Indian Creek have been awesome to work with for golf, and I expect the same thing out of the Sports Bowl if we move forward. But then you're also at the liberty of ownership of the bowling alley, and if that changes hands, things could look different there as well. But right now, all indications are that Scott would go above and beyond to support a bowling team at Nevada. Bowling questions?
Other local teams have bowling.
It's really starting to pick up actually, and I think for the reasons I stated, the untraditional student participating, Gilbert, Ballard, and Ames all bowl out of Perfect Games and Ames. So if you were to go in there, you can see the banners hanging for each of them on there. Those are local teams that have it, probably the most local. Within the conference, Greene County is the only other conference school that provides bowling, but that would be, get our match set up with Greene County and figure out the conference champ real quick. There's a lot of growth in the bowling area, at least in formalized teams, and I think a lot of it has to do with if your bowling alley will cooperate with you, there's not a ton of costs that go into it because you can use the balls at the bowling alley. And if the bowling alley wants to use that as a growth of bowling outside of the season, I think they're seeing a lot of potential in that.
So we would, for as far as the season schedule, you just kind of find worthy or workable competitors with surrounding communities.
Yep, all three of those schools that I indicated between Gilbert, Ballard, and Ames would certainly be people that I'd target to get on the schedule right away. Greene County. When we started girls and boys tennis, we knew we weren't going to be elite to start. So you can go into Bound and you can search by record, and then you can click record again and it gives you like the bottom records. So that's how we started building the tennis program, by trying to get some of those that were on the other side. We try to make it competitive and find teams that we could compete with right away so the kids had a good experience.
Is this a winter sport?
It's a winter sport, yep, and I think because you can do it inside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So winter sport. We will look at some dual sporting policies to go into the winter that might look a little different than your spring. I don't think there'll be a ton of dual sporting because it's not for your typical athlete, but we will look to make some rules and regulations and try to keep bowling events all on top of being on like heavy basketball and wrestling nights.
I like that thinking, in the sense that you might have traditional athletes in other sports that might want to be a participant in this, and it would help flesh out numbers and maybe give you some talent in that. So
Yeah.
a little laxity, or a little leniency, I should say, not laxity, would be a good thing.
You bet.
Anybody else got anything? I saw this number some time ago, and I can't tell you where, but you do a great job of selling the scoreboard at the football games. That number exists on what you're generating. Do you have that at the top of your head?
I don't have the exact number. It's a bit fluid, depending on the year. Some years we have 5 football games, some years we have 4, so some years the package might look a little different.
Sure.
I package it in with some bound stuff. Depends on the year. I don't have a total overall number of what that was. I probably could whip it together pretty quickly, but I
Be
don't
nothing
have.
that Dr. Gray couldn't put in an update, but it's just, I mean, it used to be where you were watching the same 2 or 3 continuous cycle, and now it's quite a lot of people have taken it up. I mean, are you doing the outreach, or are they coming to you?
Yeah, so we, when I arrived here 8 years ago now, which seems like yesterday, but it was 8 years ago, we contracted through a company called the Varsity Group, and they would go and find advertisements for you, and then they would take their cut, which was a pretty significant cut. About 1.5 years into that, I decided that I already had some relationships with a lot of these people, and I decided I didn't care for them to have a cut any longer. So I've personally taken all of that over, which about July can get pretty heavy, because I tell them every year that I'm going to reach out to you every year and just make sure you're happy with our partnership. So July and August get a little heavy with that, but most of the people we're working with have a tie to the school and want to continue to have a tie to the school, so they make it pretty easy on me in that conversation. But we have seen, and I think this is a credit probably to our coaches, people that want to step up and be part of that because of some of our outstanding programs.
With the potential for a home playoff game, does that impact any of the stuff we put on the board? Can we still advertise, anything like that? And conversely, can you advertise, can you market that for any special advertisements or anything like
Yeah,
that?
we can advertise in-house there as much as we please. As far as the live feed goes, the Iowa High School Athletic Association makes you limit the advertising there. I could advertise if someone wanted to step up and give some financial support that they supported it, but actually during the broadcast, that's an Iowa High School Athletic Association owned broadcast, so they limit what you can do for advertising there. The postseason comes with its own rules and regulations. For some of you who have been around the block and did some traveling to some of our games, it's supposed to be a neutral environment. And unfortunately, I play by the rules, and we provide a neutral environment, but if anyone may have went to the red place over that way. It wasn't always very neutral, but and sometimes hear from fans, why is that happening? And I'm following the handbook, they're not, and we move on from there. But that a playoff host is supposed to be a neutral environment, no third down hell's bells, and things like that. So you'll see that look a little different than a normal Friday night if we do host. And that you won't hear a game and live feed sponsor that evening because of Iowa High School Athletic Association rules. But we'll certainly provide a live feed yet that evening, and it should be a lot of fun, a fun environment there that Friday if we're lucky enough to get to host.
Well, that was a lot about a lot.
I can talk forever, Marty. So
Well, your portfolio was kind of big, and it was just the new Hall of Fame is going to be a heavy lift, and it'll take some time. And I look forward to seeing how you can figure that.
well, I appreciate your forethought on starting some of those conversations. I think it's something that will mean a lot to a lot of people.
You've been here long enough to know that some of the conversations that are had in March is when they're doing the plays, and in the fall. But I tend to go in the spring to watch them, that everybody just, you run into a church or at groceries or wherever, and they say, did you go? And if you didn't, you should, because it was great. And it's pretty special. And we've had those kind of performances, and what I notice on the football games here is that you see people staying and watching the band, because not only their uniforms are sharp, their music skills are
Yeah,
quite
Mr.
good.
Barker is
Mr. Barker's getting it done.
transformed the marching band quite a bit.
All you have to do is go to a college game, and you can see that we're kind of getting there.
Yep, agree.
Justin, do you happen to know percentage of our student population that are student athletes?
We are required to run those numbers, for the participation survey that's sent to us from the Boys and Girls Association, which is due sometime here next month. I don't have them today, but it's a number that we run, and Mrs. Zeem's working on that right now, so, something I could also report back on that.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Any developments on comings and goings to the HOIC?
Boone is not, declined our offer to come over to the Heart of Iowa Conference. I don't foresee any shakeups coming or going anytime soon. I think the 9 that are in our conference, I think we've kind of found a groove where we appreciate each other for our values that we bring to the conference.
So Boone hasn't said yes, but they haven't said no.
Boone said no.
Oh,
Oh.
Boone,
Yeah,
their
that's-
last,
yeah.
Boone's
That's
last
fine.
board
I heard
meeting,
the same
they
thing you did.
declined the
Yeah.
invitation.
That's fine. I wish our Boone brethren good luck.
Yep, I think we'll still be able to maintain a pretty healthy, we maintain a pretty healthy non-conference relationship with Boone, just with proximity,
Right.
size, and we feel like we have a very similar student population.
Anybody else have anything? I mean, kind of hitting all the bases tonight, no pun intended.
Yeah, when you get me in here, send me through the ringer, Marty.
Oh,
I'll
no,
take
you're
it.
not Cooper. You come for a Cooper if you think you're going long.
So this is kind of an off-the-wall question, but someone asked me recently about this and I really didn't know. So Cub Hub, does the material, the merchandise stay in Cub Hub the entire season?
Yeah, it does, and actually at the last Booster Club meeting, they talked about having a consistent once-a-month open time. And I forget, I tried to name it something creative. I believe the first week of December, they're going to try to be open every night, so that you can kind of hit everyone's schedule. A Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's probably like prime time for getting some Christmas shopping done. So the Booster Club, we have 4 new members every year, and this Booster Club's really intent on getting the Cub Hub open as much as possible. A lot of servant leadership with the Booster Club right now, and they want to make some more consistency with that, especially into December, but then thereafter, try to keep it updated with some new gear, and then try to have at least a once a month, every 3rd Wednesday, the Cub Hub's open type of thing.
Cool. This person actually was asking kind of a different respect. They were wondering if the Cub Hub would be available for like rental for using like out of season for like parties and things like that because they were admiring the facility, obviously.
Yep.
Thought it was a really cool idea, so.
That's a much different question.
It's a much different
And,
question. But with the merchandise staying in there, that'd be really
yeah,
difficult.
the merchandise is always in there, and they do a good job of selling through what they have, but there's always something
Stuff in there, yeah.
that would still be in there. We do have other facilities that we can get out to people, but
Yeah.
no, understand.
Well, thank you, Dustin. That was informative and entertaining, so appreciate it.
Here to entertain, Marty. Let me know when you want some more. Certainly I'll see a lot of you on Friday, maybe on
You'll
Tuesday
see
and
me on
Thursday for
Friday. I like
volleyball.
leaning on the fence and watching a good game, and you guys deliver, so
Yep.
best of luck to all
Got a lot of
parties.
good things going on. Thank you, guys.
Good things going on. Thank you. Well, since we are passing over our action agenda, that brings us to our consent agenda, which means we got bills. Oh.
It's not really a question about bills, but I saw something on the bills that reminded me, how'd the assembly go today? How was that received?
Went well, yeah. Thought our high school kids did a nice job of handling that respectfully, and it was good presentation, and in fact, I'll be headed up to the Camelot when we're done here to help wrap up the evening event, so.
Was that a mandatory assembly for everybody?
The high school, yeah, it was.
We lease all of our copiers, don't we?
Yeah.
Ms. Tom, Ms. Fond, reminding me this is an action agenda item, so I will need a motion in a second.
I have a quick question. I see the fundraiser to purchase food for the community covered. Do you know how we're doing with all those extra resources we provide our students if they're like fully stocked and?
Yeah, I think we've been able to maintain that really well.
I move the consent agenda. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 7.1, board member comments.
And I do have a typo there, obviously. Next board meeting is November 4th.
I thought you just, what's that movie where you do the same thing? every-
Groundhog's Day,
Yeah.
yeah. Clearly didn't update that.
No? Our enrollment numbers trending positive.
I believe we were up 6.
Good. Good. appreciate Dustin taking the time to do I think it's the run-up to before you roll out a Hall of Fame. You need to see what works for other people in other schools. Because when the Hall of Fame came about athletically, you did a lot of deep dives into the past. Make sure the people that had come decades before, whose success was clear and obvious and demonstrated, plus the royalty that was well within everybody's consciousness. And that was what kind of dominated the early years. You saw people from class of 22 or 34 or something like that getting brought in because they were, and I hope that's the case, and that's what this scene. So, boy, he's, you know, when you start pulling in all those performance entities, that'll be quite the conversation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the, you know, students from way back are considered and how they're brought into the fold.
Yeah.
Because, you know, with athletics, it's fairly easy, you know, we had a daily newspaper with a sports page that reported every pitch and every
And they did back then.
every shot that was ever taken.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's been that sort of, you know, preservation, that sort of documentation of the history, but I could be mistaken. I mean, and even, I think awards for the fine arts is a fairly recent thing,
Subjective.
isn't it?
Well,
Well, subjective, yes, but fairly recent. I don't remember there being anything like that when I was in school.
Mike
Like awards, I remember
Bates
we-
was, you know, before
I think band
you.
and vocal probably with,
Yeah.
you know, with Allstate.
Oh, yeah,
that
there
kind of
is.
thing.
You had that.
Yeah,
But certainly as they get into, and more recently with drama. But yeah, as you get into some areas, speech would have an Allstate.
yeah, I guess it all did. I was just never a
I
part
think
of it.
most of it, but you know, in terms of just art, maybe not as much. I think most of them do have I mean, they all have sanctioning bodies. So there's probably a record, I'm sure there is.
Is there a plan to reach out to alumni, to ask alumni for suggestions or even like a,
Yeah, well, I think typically, just like we do with the athletic one, is to get it out on social media as much as we can.
yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Next meeting, typo notwithstanding, is November 4th. So everybody gonna be here?
No, it's you three.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah, west side's gonna be absent.
How will we get by?
I don't know, I'll just spread out the corner or something.
I recall a time when you never wanted to hear the directional
That was
notations.
for you, Mark.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Is election day the following day? Are they gonna be setting up in here while we're,
No, they will bring their stuff in during the day. They typically wheel some carts in, and it'll just be sitting over there. And then the next morning, they'll be here early, setting it up, and it usually only takes that part of the room over there. So
How much do they pay us to be here?
we don't charge. Don't charge for elections.
it'd be nice to see that reciprocated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking
mine
I was
either.
thinking the exact same thing.
You know, how many times have we put ourselves out to just be a host entity or provide whatever?
We just had the conversation, how much it costs for a school board election, right?
Yeah, you don't see that on the, well, thank you for all those elections you're not charging us for.
I wonder if there's some state code that controls that too.
Yeah. No, I don't think you can.
Well, it was a nice try. That said, if anybody would like to go home, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second from Team West. As the sun sets on him, as we won't see him until the middle of November. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Night, everybody. Thank you.